Off the cedar, they use them for certain medicine. Common scars and soreness, he said that they use the sagebrush tea. That's in the early days. Now what we do when we receive the stuff that used to be used for medicine, we just pass it up, say, gosh, nothing. But if we go back to it, we could use it like they did. I believe we'd get some good out of it. But anyway, that's the way the thing turned out. We changed from one story to another. But it's my God, it can be proved. I'm not just to tell them a story. But anyway, these Indians, from them time to when they come in, they first started living in the tents like they got, and then they built a little cabin. You can see some of them still standing there. That's where they used to be, and where the old waters used to be. But one time, in the early days before this time, when they first started getting this around here, the Sioux Indians and the Rappapos and the Shoshonis, they're the people that accused these Indians of stealing their ground. Then they had the big war with, the Uinta tribe there, and the White Rivers, Uncompahgre, and the Paiutes, Nevada. They all come in together, and they fought against the Sioux and the Rappapos and the Shoshonis. But when they were having that big battle, that war, well, my grandmother was captured by the Shoshonis up there from this tribe. She was the Uinta tribe, where she comes from. But they took her one of the time she was a little kid, she wasn't a year old. They took her and raised her. By golly, that was till she was about 7 years old. That's when they had the war again. The Sioux and Shoshonis against the United States soldiers. And they killed they killed a lot of them. And this woman that raised my grandmother, she was just a girl then, but when the war was going on, the soldiers were shooting at the Indian there and killing them down there on this river. My grandmother was left by her mother and carrying her little part brother, wasn't a brother, but it was a adopted one, you might say. She thought it was her brother carrying her on her back, and she was running down the river, leading her grandmother. And she, when getting tired again, she looked up, and a big bullet hit that little boy, her brother, she called him, who carried on her mother's back, just rolled his own head right on top of us. Killed him, and then she kept going, running, and finally her mother fell. They shot her down, and she took off the light. She got hit in some driftwood, and where the old stream used to run under a hill. She hid in that, and these soldiers were going up the tree. They were looking for all the Indians. The one that see them, they just kill them. We don't want nobody. We just get rid of them. So they found my grandmother sticking down under this wood. And one of the funners said, well, we just want to kill her, Tony Gunn said, we just want to kill him, not monkey with them. And the one funner, he said, no. By golly, we'll take this one, we'll have one live prisoner. We'll take her back. And she was shot in her heel on her right foot. So when you're shot off a big scar, I've seen a scar. And the soldiers took her to the Fort Bridger. And they raised her right there until she got around about, she lived till maybe she was 12 or 14 years old. They sent her to school there. And they kept her until they had to move from that fort to a different fort. And they couldn't take her, so my grandfather, he took her over to raise her. She was about 14 years old. And after she stayed with him, he sent her to school, put her on through school, and his first wife, she died. And they stayed there, and he took care of the rest, everything else. And then finally, my grandfather married her, the girl that he raised up and finished and sent her to school. He married her, and that's where we came from. My mother was And my grandmother got her. My mother got it. And she was my grandmother. I remember her. And old Jimmy Reed, he was one of the first Pony Express riders from Fort Bridger to Lander, Wyoming. He'd done that for a couple of 3 years to carry the mail. He was a Pony Express rider, they called him. He knew Bill Cody, doing real well. And when Bill Cody was making up his book, I don't know if anybody, well, maybe you might have heard of it, Shelley, The Life of Buffalo Bill. They call him Buffalo Bill. Well, that's where he got his name. My grandfather took his cowman, his cowhand he used to have. He used to have a big bunch of cattle, 3 or 4 cows in the head. And he had quite a bunch of cowboys that used to look after him. Well, he knew Bill Cody when he was writing the books. And he had his office at Fort Bridger. Well, he got talking to my grandfather and asked him how he could come into my buffalo. So my grandfather said, well, we can arrange that. So he asked my grandfather, he said, well, you round up a herd of buffalo, and I'll come up and got in and I'll shoot. I'll get most of them killed. He said, that's what I'm thinking of. That's the way I want to make my books, where I could shoot the buffalo, kill them. Grandpa took 2 weeks to herd up a bunch of, he had about 50 of them rounded up in his crowd. His cowboys would go out and run them in. And when he got the buffalo all crowded up with him, he told this Bill Cody, he said, well, whenever you're ready, we've got the buffalo crowd for you. Oh, he said, I'm ready now. You would furnish me a horse? And he said, yes. He said, we'll furnish you everything. So he furnished old Bill Cody the horse for him to ride on, and he had his own pistol. But Grandpa got his cowboys to turn the buffalo out of the crowd and just drive them out through the sagebrush, big flat. But then they come back, and Buffalo Bill, he gets out amongst them and just rode into the big herd, and he'd shoot them down with his pistol. He shot 6 or 7 head of buffalo. Which for my grandfather had to get his cow hands to go out there and skin the buffalo and dress them out anyway. Then they took them down and gave them to the Fort Bridger soldiers there. And a lot of white people that survived the meat because, 6 or 7 buffaloes dressed would make a pretty good bunch of meat. But they gave about half of them, and then they distributed some on the ground to what that was in there. That's where he got it, and my grandfather knew him real well. But that's the big story, though, for us. If there are any questions you might ask, well, I might. If I can answer the question, I'd be glad to try.
There's the average getting put your help then back.
No. It was my father when we met him. Over here on that old bridge down Road Fort Duchesne, that's where the road used to go through. And I've been to where Butch Cassidy and them highway that used to stay over 9 miles. I've been to that place, the hideout, they called it. But she was coming from there when my father traded horses with him right there. We used to go right down, 2 of us ride on a horse, and take the old man down to work. He worked with Fort Duchesne, and when the soldiers first come in, around in that.
There's more questions. We don't know anything about attitude. Yeah.
No, I don't. Unless you're down in the Hill Creek. I know where the old river basin used to be, what they call O'Ray. I know where that was. That's straight across east of where O'Ray is now, a little bit north and east, up in there where the old fort used to be. There was a fort.
Northeast?
Northeast, yes, from where O'Ray is now. That's where go down, cross the bridge, and take your left hand road and go up along the side. Well, you follow, it's on road now. But you follow that to the first road, turn your left to go up on the east side of Green River. You go right up there until you come up pretty close to the hill. Just right where the hill will be laying out like so, and you come right pretty close to it. Well, from there down south, you can see what the old fort used to be, and that's where O'Reilly first started. It was Fort Rubidoux, I believe, is what they called it. That's where it used to be. And it stayed there for a long time after the soldiers moved down. Well, then they come in and they moved O'Reilly across over to where it is now.
You go straight on that way along
No, you turn right off the oil. I'd say put in a mile, might be a mile. Then it turns off and you go up there, you can just walk out. I've been up in there. And we was down in there, man, Larby Hole, we were down looking that over and checking that over. And that, I knew where it was, but we just had to go and see if we could find out. But you can still find the place where the old building used to be. Yeah.
Or as we turn off the road. Between that or chat.
Oh, about a half a mile. Yeah. Yeah, you can get down there and find that part of it. And this here place up here, what they call Rubidoux, I believe it is, and there was one that built there. Well, that's where old Rubidoux used to be, and my grandfather and another father, an old man in there. It's where they first started up the training post. Indian training post.
Just get you.
How that?
Thanksgiving.
Well, that could have been. Now, I don't remember what his name was, but they started in the business side of that training post, they called it. That's where old Grandpa was, and finally he sold out. That he moved over there to White Rocks, up in there, and that's where he took up his first ground. And I remember this place, I've been there. And his boys, when they got married, old Grandpa built a house for them. The house where him and my grandma used to live was kind of a two-story. They had upstairs apartment. But then the other two buildings, when Jim Reed got married, that's old Bill Reed's father. When he got married, my old grandfather built a house for him, ran out from his house a little way. Jim got married later, I believe. John Reed was the first Glenn Reed, you know, up in. Well, he got married, John did. And grandfather built his house out there the next year or so. Jim Reed got married to build his, but the Reed were all right over there, 3 buildings in place. And my father, down just from that, just a little way, about where that old barn is now, by the White House School, that's where I was born. Henry, me, Pam, and Della. Jack, he was buried down there, born down in right in where White Rocks is now. They used to have the main store there, just across from where the Indian Out was going up. In fact, 2 stores in that. And that's where we was born. It was up in there around the White Rocks Temple. I remember being there when I was a youngster.
Yeah.
It's been quite a little while ago, and I don't know other things. It's
They've cat.
been able to be in infantry. So, and that would be some more questions that there is. What you actually there is over. Two things. The what? It's like by the other them.
He sat so as an expert. How did he water? Like
About 3 months.
didn't you back my train?
No, he wasn't on horseback. Have you mean when he went up to get the yeah. Well, he went by, no, I think he went by a team. It's a buddy team with the soldier. There some of the soldiers went with him from here. They went with him up there, asked him. They just had the team. I'm pretty sure that's why he didn't go on bus or train anyway. And they come back the same way. They come home with the Indians. It took them a long time to move back. Well, I'm back there was the whole world coming back, and then they camped up, you know, where the old Daniel's place is. Well, they camped just above that. That's the only place they wanted to stay there for all winter and quite a long time.
Yeah, quite a
Yes, sir.
Oh, I did red cat from back, you know, the team so that it was later couldn't even hear with her.
Yes, he had to, yeah. Yeah, he run a bill there. There was no land and then call for run store there. He was the only store when I went there. They had one little log cabin with dirt roof on it. Just covered with dirt, and that's what they used from the hotel. That's where I stayed overnight. And old Crawford, he run the store, and I told him, if Redcap, he's going to stay here by himself. But I said, if he needs any groceries, such as that, why, you let him have it on credit, see, at the store, and you'll get your money from the tribe, the poor said. Just send your bill in, and they'll pay the bill. So that's the way he lived over there until come back home. Yeah, see, so hard times them days were a whole lot different from this now. In 1916, I started driving mail from Price to Burdick. And I drove right up the street here in Roosevelt. Or we never rode, but right up the main street where there was nothing but a big bunch of roll sagebrush right down in the middle of the street. And on each side of it where the wagon used to go, kind of a wagon road in White City, after the main street. But when I was driving mail, I got stuck right there with the cash meat on his at night about 12 o'clock. And I never got out of the muck until around about 9 o'clock the next morning. I knew him, and I've got a picture of him. Like, I mean, when he was there, and a long time ago, and I kept it now to put up one shit with a small picture, but they could see him when he was in his tent, where he used to live. Just we go get him later. Okay. Okay. That stuff. Now, I do want to hear about this old man. They call him, heck, I remember his name. But anyway, it means Nupigut. That's his name. It means Nupigut means you're crazy.
Please come into the room. What he wants to be with.
This old man, in the beginning, when the Indians first got over into this reservation, the first moved over, he was up there and he lived by the old man, they called him Captain Bob Ridley. He was an old captain. He was kind of wild amongst the soldiers when they first started coming in, and he guided them and take about showing what. But anyway, this Indian, he was kind of a young fella, but imagine about 12 years old. And his mother done something there that was against him that he didn't want. There's something that he didn't like to. That they wanted to have it done, but she done it anyway, and he got mad, and he flew off the handle, and he took a big stick, club you might call it, and they beat her to death. He whipped her to death right there. So they decided that they'd take him. They didn't have the court or anything like that to take him to, but they decided that they'd take him back up in these mountains, way back up in these hills right here. Oh, I couldn't tell you the exact place, but it's quite a way back the mountain. They didn't want to punish him here or kill him. So they decided to take him way back up there and turn him loose in the hill so that he could starve to death. Or he died somewhere from exposure or weather. Didn't have any clothes or nothing on him. They just stripped him down and turned him loose to starve and die right up the hill. On the way back, they stopped to pick some berries up there. They turned him and thought he'd get lost, and they all wouldn't know how to get him home. But he stayed quite well there. When they were picking the berries, getting back home, when they landed home, when there was crazy Indian there, he beat them all. So he decided then that, they got after him, and they told him they'd have to take him again or do something, and he said, no. If I could stay here, I'll never wear clothes. I won't wear any clothes, nothing, just like you tell me. I'll stay here. Wintertime cold weather, if I freeze to death, it's all right, but I'd stay. And I've seen his camp where he used to be, and I saw him when he was quite an old man when I started to first saw him. He had big, long whiskers on his face, and his hair was just lathered up so much to his stand all over his head. It was like the girl shooting out. And the hair sticking way up in big bunches. That's the way it was. And I remember seeing him, he wouldn't talk. He never talked to anybody who he would to his brother. Oh, Dick. And Dick probably was his brother, and he lived just a little ways from him, about 200 yards. And he had two women, two wives, old Dick did. And they used to cook his meals for him, and they could take him down to him. And he'd sleep in that little bit of a tent about that high. Just a little canvas spread around the whole 4 or 5 little poles. Now, I'll cut a picture, and I'll show you. I'll go out and get it. I'm pretty sure I've got it. It shows part of the way that he used to be. And through the winter, the only clothes he'd have on was a thin kind of a white shirt. It's just a thin calico shirt they made for him. Never put on shoes. I've seen him out in the snow gathering wood, and the snow would be way up above his knees, and he never had no trousers, no pants, and no shoes or nothing, barefooted. Out in the snow, gathering in the wood to make a little fire. That's why he kind of kept warm through the night, and he'd have wood, it kind of keep a little fire that he'd cover around it when you sleep. So at the one time, old Dick, probably his brother, went down there, called him, hollered at him. He didn't get out. He told him, he said, I'm stuck. So old Dick went over there to see what it was, and where he was asleep, this water had run down when he had the fire. You see, if the snow melted, it ran down, and one side of his point of his hair got frozen in the ice. That's where the reason he couldn't get out. He was froze right in the ice, so Dick had to go up to get that pair of scissors, and he got some scissors, from his wife, and he just got the hair off and left it sticking in the ice, let him be up. That's the only place where he had the hair was short on his head. I don't remember seeing that. There was the employees used to go up there and show the people that go up to see him at the camp. I went up with him to see him and take him. And this old crazy Indian now, to show how crazy he was. And that's what we think. But they'd offer him a quarter. Have a 2-bit piece, a nickel, a dime, a quarter, or 50 cents. Most of them used to give him a quarter. And he'd sit there, never say a word. He'd just sit there like this. And when they'd offer him the quarter, he'd reach out and get it. He'd reach out and get it. Sooner they put the money there, he'd get that. Now that showed how crazy he was. If he told him to get the money, he'd keep it. And his brother used to take him, keep it for him. Well, I don't know how long he lived. He lived up in there for a long time, and they used to be acolytes. Lived up there pretty close. And the woman's name was Nellie. I remember her. And she died anyway. And they took them, and the casket they used to use was just a big one, square box they used to make. They put her in there, a lot of sugar, and stuff like she'd have something to eat when she'd go to have the hunting well. She took off. Anyway, but they took and buried her. And about a year or so, then they made the Indians move her grave off of that. That's where the school ground is now. They were going to farm it. So they made them dig her up and move it. And when they dug her up, they thought they'd just take a look and see. And after she'd been buried, why she'd come to life. And she turned over, and she had the handful of her hair where she pulled it out. And the sacks of sugar that she had was all over her face. That she would eat the sugar, and I get hard and pulling her hair out, but she was laying on her stomach. So they buried her on her back, but she must have come to life or something and turned over but couldn't get out of the box. So that's the way she starved to death or died, and in that way. I remember when they dug her out and moved her grave. But how that's the way they're getting along up in there. But the old crazy man, I don't know. I never did see him for a long time after that. And he died. I don't know how old he got. But I did see him, and I also have to get a picture of where he used to be.
There, would he talk to people?
No, no, never.
As far as punishment was.
Yes, yeah, that's what he, again, that's what he promised. See, he promised that he wouldn't talk to anybody. I'm going to be right here. No clothes, I'll stay right here. I ain't going any place, I'm just going to live here, right here. That's where he stayed up till the time he died. Never left the tent only to go out and get rid of some wood through the night. He wasn't as crazy as I thought he was. I don't believe, but that's the way he punished himself, just like he did after he'd killed his mother. Yeah, that's all it. Captain Bob Redley, I remember seeing him, and he used to be down there to go down to see him, but he would talk to him. The only human that he ever talked to was Dick. Old Dick Provo. He talked pretty good English, and he go down and talk to him. But he said he never talked to nobody, only him, that's all. Tell him what he needed. If he wasn't hungry, well, that's all. No clothes or nothing. He was a kind of funny old guy. I knew the people, but I don't know just exactly, but he was getting along a little older while I didn't know him.
You were saying something about boarding school when you went there.
Well, I got at the first place I went up, the boarding school was, you got place. I was about 6. I was a little bit of a guy when I first started school at White Rock. Well, I went to school there for the first winter, I believe, and then we quit. We moved down all the ranch down there. Then we turned and went to school over, no, we went back to White Rock. That was it. We went to school up there for 3 or 4 different years, and we got to be a pretty good sized kid. Then I think we were around about 12. Me and Pam, my father and mother, took us from the ranch over here above Fort Richey up to White Rock to school. And they had a big board fence way around the school. And we dug a hole down under that fence so we could get away. They'd take us up to school and leave us there. Put us over what they call their playroom for the leg. We'd take off, we'd make for that hole, and we'd walk or bum ride any way we could get home from there. And I remember one morning, it was on April Fool Day. And on April, the fact, come about 10 inches of snow. And when I got home, I went into the house. But he didn't. He got into the haystack and dug him a hole down into the hay. That's where he stayed through the night. And in the morning, as the mother got up, she seen somebody standing up on the top of the haystack. And that slowed him. She asked me where Pap was, and I told her that's where he was. She said, oh, that's him standing up on the haystack. And old Jackie, he said, we can't believe that. You want to April Fool us? She said, no, you'd April Fool me, but they won't fool you. We took a look, I understand. So Jack had to go up and get him and bring him out of the house, give her some breakfast. Well, that afternoon, they took us back to school again. That night, we was back home. We never stayed. Oh, it went for a long time that way. It was get around, and then there was an old man called Webb. He took a little ranch up in above our place there. He kind of put up a little school up in there. We went to school there. I went to school at Radlett when they used to have an Indian school there. I got down back. Well, I didn't take too much schooling, not so much as I need. But I did. So I went to school there with the faucet. I didn't go to school in Moffat there in Vertical. Over in Major. That's where I finished up high school week. I only got through the 8th grade, and that's far I went. If I had any more grades, well, I wouldn't have been here now. I might have been in the White House.
I thought I had a big
But I didn't learn much. I'm kind of a funny guy. I can tell a story and remember pretty good, but by generally I'm not right up qualified like I should be. I know now what I should have done. And I'll tell you, well, all you kids, like Terminated, if you want to make good, you just go to school and finish up. Don't quit just soon you pass on to the 8th grade. Keep it going. Get the best out of it through everything and try. Pick everything that you think that would be the best for you, what you like to do. Any kind of a trade or whatever would be a big thing for you, that's the thing to study on, take over. If you want to be a movie actress, you're good looking, good singer, sing good, speak, perform, do tricks or anything like that, well, stick with it. Do that. No, that's not the thing that I do now. I've made little different things. 1924, I made a little tool that I used when I was working in the garage. I made a tool and I've still got it today. Same thing. And now, about the last 4 or 5 years, there's somebody else kind of made this on the same principle, same thing that I've got, that I made. And they got a big patent on it, got big money for that, wasn't smart enough to apply for a patent.